before start, let me explain what I will. I want you to create some interviews with some sculptor because I want to have different opinions and different views of sculpting world and to have different how you start in sculpting. What do you do for living? What is your favorite material to sculpt? Basically, question for people who want to start in sculpting. And okay, let's move on. And the first question. You are so tired. I can see you in your eyes. You are so tired.
Yes, a little bit. I'm teaching. This is the first day, but I have 150 students this week.
Oh.
And I have 9 hours a day of continuous teaching. So 30 people in a very small room every day. So they are young, and I need to.
What is the topic? Yeah. What is the topic of the class? The topic?
This week the topic was based on dynamic maquette.
Okay. So a full figure.
Yes, full figure with extreme dynamic postures.
Oh wow! And they have some experience in sculpting, or
no, they don't. I mean, they have the experience I gave. They have a lot of different classes, and mine is focused on exactly like you.
Like you see, it's the same. Totally
you do
the same.
The academy. So I am here to teach them the sculpting thing before they switch to complete 3D modeling.
Oh, Roman, I do the same, exactly the same. So I totally understand you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very happy to have you here because in addition to being a friend, you are also an artist whom I respect a lot, you. And I also took a course with you in Milan with Margherita. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, of course.
Already 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly.
Time is flying, but yeah, something. At least 2 years ago.
Yeah, at least 3 years ago. Yeah. You told me that you officially start in sculpting as a professional sculptor since 2015.
Yes, 2000. Let's say mid 2015.
Yes.
Like
okay. For those who don't know you, introduce yourself and tell us who are you and what you do for a living. How did you start for sculpting for a living?
For a living, basically, I switched my.
When you started to sculpt something in your life, when?
So a long time ago in another galaxy. I started, as a teenager, I was collecting Magic the Gathering card game, playing role-playing games.
You started
reading.
You started to sculpting in miniatures and then moving into larger sculptures.
Yes, I started painting miniatures 20 years ago.
I remember I saw. I don't know if you remember, but in Milan. Fabrizio Russo, let me see, a little magazine with Games Workshop that you won a prize. I don't remember what prize, but you are a very younger version of Romain with the long hair.
yes, exactly. So some evidences are still on the web, so somewhere.
You started in painting, so you started in painting.
I started painting, but I never painted a lot. So maybe 3-4 years as a teenager, and quite fast I switched to converting and modifying more and more the available miniatures.
Before conversion and then sculpt from scratch.
Yes, and very fast I did my first attempt to sculpting. So and it was more easy for me to express myself in that field compared to the constrained miniature canvas just to paint. Some people they like to be creative in the canvas of the miniature, but I felt a little a little bit constrained by this, because my inspiration was not very fitting to the miniature world, like the available miniature world.
Yeah.
So I was more into developing
how many years ago? How many years?
Oh, very very fast in my career, the so-called career, as a teenager career. So I don't know, at 18 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
17 maybe. I did the first try to sculpting. So and then I was into that amateur practice for years and years, and it was good for me to develop my own way to approach the sculpting thing, to develop my own style. During all those years, because I wasn't under pressure, financial pressure.
Yes, because in that time it's not your there is not your job. Is you do in your free time,
Yeah. So I keep going sculpting and learning just because I was passionate about it, and that's the reason why I was very.
Okay. Do you remember where
to test and try different techniques and
different materials?
Yeah.
Do you remember what is your first commission?
Wow. But basically, it wasn't a commission. It was more like I did something and I sold the
master,
the miniature, because people were interested by that. I remember maybe the first piece for GMD was some kind of a barbarian or a very small bust.
Yeah.
Maybe this very, with a rage expression, very very simple, like an academic bust, but with a facial expression. So maybe this was the first miniature bought by a company back in the days.
Which company? Which?
GMD.
Oh, GMD. Yes. Yeah.
It was a French brand from the 2005, something like that.
Yeah. And after that, you move into the business with other commissions.
No, for all those hobbyist years, I almost never took commissions in the professional sense of commissions. It was always something like I do a sculpture, and somebody is interested by the sculpture and buy the production rights to produce their own. To produce it as an available kit.
Yeah.
But as far as I remember, it was very rare to answer to a commission, like I give you the guideline and you are obliged to reply to those.
I totally understand. And in the meanwhile, you are sculpting something. You have also a university career, you told me.
Yeah. I was during all those years. I was a scientist, so I did a PhD in soil science, like agronomy. I was specialist of water infiltration through the soil porous system.
Yeah. I remember you told me in Milan this, and this is outstanding because speaking with the other sculptor, Pedro, Lucas, and other sculptor. There are sculptors that who have studied art, and sculptors who have not studied art, but who have learned a lot from a self-taught how to sculpt something. You are totally self-taught, no?
Yeah, I was self-taught. Yes.
Yeah, you understand how to sculpt something basically with practice, with attempts, mistakes, and so on, no?
Yeah, it's all my knowledge is based on empirical model.
Your experience.
I try something and then I correct. And even now, when I sculpt something, I don't know the end of the sculpture. I start something and then it's continuously evolving as a function of the things I do at the on the sculpt. So I do something. I just watch what I just did, and then I correct and I adjust and I evolve. Like it's a very biological process.
Okay, looking at your okay, before this, and when you switched totally your work from university to sculpting,
Mm-hmm.
don't you have afraid of doing this switching in your life, because it's a hard decision to move from university with a good career to a sculpting world that basically is totally different.
It wasn't that hard, because I know at that time that I just had to send some emails to manufacturers and miniature producers to have commissions. So it wasn't that.
You sent the email to the production, to the companies and so on.
Yeah.
Because
so
I am Romain Van de Bogaert. I am available for commission.
Yeah. Basically, it was that. So I asked a couple of friends already working in that field to if they know some producer interested by commission from me, or I directly send emails. I'm always like that. So I'm like, I don't know if it's correct in English, but I am proactive.
Yeah.
I send emails. I try to contact people to collaborate or to partner on some projects. To if you don't ask, you never have anything. Or most of the time, it's better to ask.
Wow, something like a personal branding to share what you are able to do, what you are able to sculpt.
And in addition, I was already, in that field for maybe 15 years.
Basically, people already know you. People already know you. Yeah.
The manufacturers, and the companies, they already know my name and my style, so they can rely on that on that part of my job as a hobbyist.
And why you do this? Because the work in university don't like you? You don't like the university?
No, it was a little bit more complex than that. It's difficult to sum up that decision. It's a mix between different things, like my personal life evolving at that time. The fact that it's very difficult to be actually employed as a researcher in Europe or in the world, because less and less money are invested in academic science and academic researches. So it's very difficult to have a permanent job in academy.
Totally. In Italy is the same, totally the same. With university and the academy is the same. Yeah.
So it was, and in addition, the scientific world is not that quiet. I mean, you have to be like even more, like a shark.
Absolutely, I totally understand you.
To survive.
Romain, here in Italy, in university, with all the teachers are the same surname, because there's the son, the sister. Then this is incredible. It's not good university. This is not good. It's not how do you say in English? Meritocracy.
Yeah.
It's not meritocracy here in Italy.
Italian connection.
Exactly. Okay, let's move in your sculpture. Looking at your sculptures, people always recognize your style, especially in the faces, because your faces are very characteristic, no? And how did you learn to create faces so well? How do you have any advice from learning anatomy of the face so well?
It's not only about anatomy. In fact, it's not at all about related about anatomy. But you can learn anatomy of the face quite fast. There are not so many muscles. You have to sculpt maybe 5-10 craniums, and then you know it. You know it. Or you just have to watch some.
Learn anatomy is pretty simple, but to create one good expression of the face is something different.
Yeah. It's related to observation. A lot of observation of people, and the ability to input. How can I say? To create control defects, because no one is symmetrical. No one is.
No. The symmetry doesn't exist.
It does at some point. It doesn't exist. It's symmetric, but at some point you have to break it to create defects, small variation, and that's the most important thing for me to create those defects that create life. And also it's related to not only to a mathematic formula. It's also an expression of how can I say, of mental environment, like
totally understand.
When you are looking at a character, you have to create, to imagine your own history, not your own how can I say. It's difficult.
You have to create one interpretation of the face in your mind, and then you create a sketch with your hands,
and also to give your input. What's in the head of the character? He feel sad or not, happy, or not only.
Do you when you start
the state of the character?
When you start to sculpting one character, do you have a straight idea of what you want to create, and then you go through in that way, and without correction, or you often change the expression, just play with your material?
It's absolutely a non-linear process.
Okay. You change everything when you want. You want to change from sad to happy.
Yeah, exactly. Or male to female. It can absolutely switch to extreme different things. So I can start with with a female face. At the end of the day, it will be a muscular guy, or the opposite. So it's a little bit extreme, but when I start something, I absolutely don't know where the character.
You don't draw your sculpture before, no.
I don't draw the sculpture. I almost never draw, but more and more I try to practice and to not to draw the final sculpture, because I don't know what will be the final result.
Just to sketch an idea.
But I sketch zooms and details.
Oh wow, yeah.
When I want to sculpt I don't know, an armature or design patterns, I draw a lot of design and patterns on.
Just to formalize the idea.
Yeah, and then they can be added to the project, but I don't know how and when. But those small patterns or those small tools or sketches I draw, they can be injected in the project at some point, but I never draw a final sketch of my project because I don't know what the project will be.
It doesn't give you the same freedom to create something. You want to change in every time you want to change something. You want to be able to do this.
And especially it's most of my personal projects. They are not. I never start something on Monday and finish it on.
I saw your last personal project. No, the shaman with the strange pirate in the with the bird here.
A small miniature.
Yeah, small miniature. Yeah. What is that? Is a pirate? Oh no.
Yeah, a kind of pirate.
Yes. You told me in Eindhoven that you started this figure a lot of years ago.
Yeah, maybe 10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah. And you completed the last month.
Yeah, a little bit more, but it's more or less. But this one was the creative process of this one was a little bit different back in the days. It was more classic.
Approach. Classic approach.
90% of the miniature 10 or 12 years ago, and then I forget it. And some months ago, I opened a box and I found the master of the.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's almost finished. So why not finishing it and making it available for people? So it was the effort because it's a cool miniature, but it's more in my old style because it's a very, very old miniature, in fact. So
and do you have a mentor?
A mentor?
Yeah.
Not really.
It's a hard question.
Yeah, it's a hard question because I have so many influences. So
just like with Pedro Fernandez, tell me 3 names.
Moebius, like always.
What?
Moebius. The drawer. Moebius. Jean Giraud.
Can you write in Skype? Can you write?
Where I can write
chat.
Moebius. Moebius. Of course.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, really. It's a miniature sculpture.
No. It's absolutely not related to miniature.
Okay. But I know. Yeah, I know. But I thought that it was in miniature sculpting. Sorry.
No.
Yes, it's a big sculpture, Mobius. Yeah.
No. The drawer, mostly drawer.
Yeah.
But so you wanted some names in the miniature in
No, just no. Just be you can choose in yourself. Not sculpture related, not size related.
Okay. So yes, Moebius, and then to keep it focused on figurative arts, because I have so many interest in other fields of art. I can say Stanisław Zukalski. Zukalski and Mestrovich.
Yeah.
Mestrovich, or maybe the classic Rodin.
Yes, this is the classic sculpture. With a figurative sculpture.
Yeah, these names are 3 figurative sculpture I really like.
When you move from a miniature sculpting to a large sculpture, when?
Actually, I never did so many large scale figures. I did a couple of like 1-to-1 scale mass in clay or stuff like that, but in plaster. But I never did that much large scale sculptures.
Do you think that the same question I did with other sculpture? Do you think is more difficult to sculpt a small bust or a large bust?
There is no answer to your question. It's just different. I think it's just different. You have obviously the tools that they are not the same.
Also the materials.
The materials, the way to proceed is different. The number of, I mean, if you add the same amount of detail in a life-size bust compared to a miniature, it will be absolutely ugly and disgusting.
Yeah.
At large scale, you have to, except if you want to go to ultra realism like Ron Mueck or prosthetics and stuff like that. You can create very very detailed power.
The miniature forgive you because it's so little, no?
But if most of the time, if you want to sculpt interesting large scale models, you have to simplify forms. You have to give something else. Not only detailing stuff. So, and I think even my answer is not that interesting because it really depends what you want to.
Yes, there is no one absolutely answer in this question.
No.
Every single sculpture is different.
Yes. If you want to do ultra realism, you can go at large scale or maybe gigantic sculpture in ultra realism.
Yeah.
But you need to have a purpose to do that.
And about miniature sculptures, what is your favorite miniature sculptors?
Favorite miniature sculptors. Jacques Alexandre.
This is another tricky question.
I don't have favorite sculptors but I have. I appreciate the work of Jacques Alexandre Gillois.
Yeah, you told me. I'm trying to interview also Jacques, and I hope to interview him soon, but he doesn't have a lot of time, so I'm trying to interview because I think it's interesting to interview Jacques.
A lot. He has a family now, so he's a little bit, in a different context. He's not very related to the miniature industry, small companies.
It's called, in the last years, he sculpted only for Kingdom Death.
He's focused only on Kingdom Death. So,
but his work is incredible.
Yeah, his work is absolutely incredible. And my friend Alan Carrasco.
Alan, I asked to Alan to have an interview, and Alan said, Daniele, I want to have an interview with you, but I don't have a webcam. Alan, no problem. We can record the audio, or you can write the answer. It's okay, but. After that, I want to also speaking of French sculpture, I want to interview also Patrick and Masson and I don't know. I will see you also Thomas David.
Yes.
You have a lot of competitor sculpture in French.
It's the French family from the 2005 era, A lot of French sculptors, they started approximately in that period, like 2005, 2006.
Okay.
So it's like a family from this.
You okay. I'm asking you probably the most question that people asking you. Because it is the same with me. What is the material that you use for sculpt?
What kind of clay do you use?
People asking you the same every single time. What material do you use for sculpt?
The material is important, but
Romain, people think that the material is the most important thing.
Yeah. That's always when you are a drawer. I guess people are asking what kind of pencil do you use, or if
Yeah.
you are a painter, what kind of paint do you use?
Do you
So
know? Do you know one little thing? Last year, Alan Lee posted a little post with just as a joke. Oh,
mhm.
this is the best pencil I use for drawing. And then all artists go to buy this pencil, but you can buy
Yeah,
the experience of Alan Lee.
so most of the time I use polymer clay.
Yeah,
Like I'm used to work with super sculpting,
super Sculpey.
but I can use different materials. It also depends of the scale, the amount of detail.
And normally for a miniature, for example, 110 bust.
Yeah, I will use super sculpted medium
Perfect.
mixed with a little bit of Fimo.
Yeah.
And it will give a little bit more strength of the mix
Perfect.
For the mix. But yeah, it's just polymer clay.
Do you, I recently interviewed Tim Bruckner, who's a lot of wax to complete his sculptures, and I love Tim's works because for me he's an incredible sculptor. For have you ever used wax for miniatures or for your project? Are you tried the wax?
I never try wax because it was really different material to work with. So I never got the opportunity to work with hot tools or
yes,
carving
you have
wax.
to. What do you say in English? The hot pen to work in.
You have to work with a hot pen, hot tools.
Yeah.
So you have to buy a specific set of tools to work with very hard wax. So no, I never got the opportunity, but maybe someday. I don't know.
And another tricky question, another difficult question. Have you ever thought to moving into the 3D?
Actually, I am learning 3D. So I bought the license for some software.
Yeah,
and
probably your next release will be in 3D.
I don't like most of the other. Unlike most of the other miniature sculptor, I don't want to. At least at the moment, I don't want to fully switch to 3D.
Yeah.
For me, 3D it's just a new tool, and I want to use this new tool on specific part of my job. So I am more and more interested by other field of art, like graphic design, typography, stuff like that, and pattern design and stuff like that. So it's very difficult to create patterns by hand, like printed patterns on fabric. It's like a nightmare to mimic it in 3D, like traditional 3D. So I want to use that kind of new tool to be able to print those patterns on a surface, or to edit stamps to stamp the surfaces, or to create like very complex geometric shape and mix traditional and 3D in order to produce very interesting prototypes.
Some sculptures did this. For example, Joaquin Palacios, if I'm not mistaken, tried to create a mix between traditional and digital sculpture.
Yeah, I have seen a couple of times some 3D printed parts mixed with
basically the 3D is like a different tool.
Yeah. So when it's used on purpose, I think it worth the effort. And also, I'm very interested by other media like different field of art. Fully like dancing and adding video mapping based on 3D on in a contemporary art setup. I don't know. You have a lot of different.
Yes, it's very different.
Yeah, very different fields. So 3D can open some new doors. It can be a tool to create interesting prototypes. It can be also used for completely different things. And yes, that's my goal.
Do you think? This is not a good question, but I don't know. Do you think that a 3D sculpture should be considered a true sculptor, or better call him a digital artist?
This is a very bad question.
It's not. No. I'm asking. This is a joke, a provocation, no?
I know that.
But no. The point is that we have sculpture that started as a traditional sculpture, like you, and then moving into the 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an experience, a knowledge, an education in traditional sculpturing, and you move that experience in the 3D. This is okay. This is perfect. But right now we have a lot of sculptures that started directly in 3D.
Yeah, they're native digital.
But I see. And I saw some sculpture digitally created that the pin to create the kit is totally incredible, because that people don't have the idea of how to create one real sculpture. Don't have the idea of what to create a kit a physical kit, because one digital sculpture, you see the sculpture through your computer, but when you print the miniature is totally different.
Yeah, so it's always if we are talking about miniature, because miniature, it's a very small part of the world, and the art world and the creative world. If we are talking about people working for the miniature industry, it's very important to print the digital model at some point, and to give you like an auto feedback, because you see something on your computer, and no printers are very cheap, so you can print and compare what you have in hand and what you have on your screen, and then you adjust and print
again.
Something with more or less contrast. If the shape are not absolutely perfect,
it depends. It depends also from the quality of the printer, obviously.
Yeah. But even if the quality of the printer is not that good, it's just a question of for example, ZBrush is not a real 3D software. It's a 2.5D software. So
yes.
What you see is not really 3D. So you have some angles that are not really 3-dimensional. When you see something on your computer, then you print it, you have some parallax, distortions. Are not very visible on your computer. And also the fact that you see something on your computer very large, especially if you work on a big screen, and then you print that amount of detail on a very small miniature. And most of the time, it doesn't even make sense to sculpt. I don't know, the very, very, very small details of the skin.
But if you will print that miniature in 35 millimeters,
don't give a shit of the skin pore.
Doesn't make sense.
Face like that big, so it's good for advertising and creating a good render. But it doesn't make sense if you want to work. If the final product is that that big.
But I saw that sculpture that come from traditional sculpture has a different approach also in digital. I can see a total approach in
Yeah, I think it's a very good experience to work in traditional media before switching to digital, because you know the weight of things, you know the gravity,
with something is with the 3D you are more productive, no? Because it needs less time. It sometimes it's simpler to create in 3D compared to traditional, of course.
Yeah, most of the time it's simpler and easier. But when you go fast, you forget. For example, when I sculpt something, I can watch for half an hour the figure without doing anything. And when I am watching for half an hour or maybe an hour the work in front of me, I am thinking to the next step, and maybe I can completely change this part of the sculpt. Creative, to be more interesting, to create a deeper story. So when you work in digital, you go fast. That's good, but sometimes, and I can say maybe most of the time, you switch, you skip this,
Yes, this little step.
This step of thinking.
Yeah.
Best option, because you can do it in the blink of an eye. So it go fast, and you don't think. Another thing that I noticed in 3D is that basically ZBrush and other 3D software allows you to create such incredible details. But this dot means that you have to create that details. The thing that you can doesn't need that you have to create. You have to create that details. Exactly. Sometimes less is better. Yeah, but I know we are as miniature sculptor. Most of the time, we are a little bit, addicted to details.
Yeah, exactly.
And 3D is the nightmare, because you can zoom.
But you have to be careful. You have to be careful.
And yes, at the end of the day, you have to be very, very careful, because most of the time, less is more. So.
Okay. Last question, because it's a long time interview. We can speak for 4 hours. What you are working lately? What you're working now in your next? Can you anticipate your next release?
I'm more and more separating, miniature related release and other kind of release. So I have some interesting mask in the process. Actually, I have 2 of them that are ready. They are quite big. I also have a couple of old projects, more miniature related. I need to work a little bit on them, and I have so many projects on the workbench. I have maybe 50 different projects in the process, so it's difficult to say, okay, this one will be the next one. So I have already some things that are ready to be released, but I'm waiting a little bit. So yeah, mask and ethnic things. My usual style, but it's a little bit more interesting now. I have a lot of projects that I plan to release this year. I need to adjust some stuff in my casting process, because now I am casting 100% of my miniatures and sculpture. So I need to adjust some technical aspect of that part
yeah.
to be absolutely sure of the casting process.
Yeah.
And once I have all of this set up, I will be very, very happy. At the same time, I am learning, 3D software, so I can now mix anything.
I understand that create correctly the mold and casting is one part of sculpture really important.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
you don't need to create like a library of shapes and forms. I'm very interested into, biology and how can I say, vegetal architectures.
Yeah.
Like, plants and seeds and stuff like that. So with the digital stuff,
it's something that you can reuse again.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I'm with spare parts and
spare parts.
Casting them like a kit, like a gigantic.
But the problem is one thing that I noticed is that create mold correctly. It's another job. You have to understand how to create appropriately the molds, how to casting the resin. It's a totally different job.
Yeah.
But it's important.
When you manage to blend the two approaches, it's very interesting as a creative process, because I can cast so many parts.
I forced myself to understand, because when you work with Chamant or plastilin, you have to understand how to create the mold, because you can create the sculpture with plastilin, no? Okay.
Perfect.
Romain,
see you soon.
Thank you again, my friend.
Have an appointment there, another appointment. So I need to go. Thank you for your interview, and we keep in touch.
Yes. Thank you. Bye, Romain. Bye.